Hello, America. UConn has a number of people involved with Hartford Hospital, doctors and their patients. That's in Storrs, Connecticut. Hartford Hospital is in Hartford, Connecticut, involved with Los Solitos themed and with some other criminal enterprises involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and a bunch of judges and courts members involved with the same house with wire crimes. And Wethersfield police attached me to fake conversations with themselves and others when I was a kid and I was an adult. A bunch of people tied to the someone named Gilmore. I don't even know what he looks like yet. Involved with a Christina Sioka, involved with some medical and sexual offenders of kids, and mail and wire crimes and delusions. We have people speaking about IQ tests. They're criminally foreign tactically delusions raw. At campuses A through Z too, sickly distinctly to have people debating using criminally foreign tactically delusions raw, factoring nature, quality aspects in nature, and self-evaluating that being haven't been used remotely or sensing for the breaching method. Forgiveness is so we allow people to defend ourselves syntactically. Otherwise, there's going to be more violence involved. You guys have criminal enterprises and sexual and medical offenders of kids roles with the principal being, and more with the Facebook page of pages of Hartford Hospital involved with mail and wire crimes with them, drugs and medicines crimes, all kinds of delusions with the mental health people and with the intelligence. UConn, why are you leaking this through silence too? Please do what's right. Get them on paper with the police chief Cintron and the other retired police chiefs, and the house is tied to them with some sexual medical. Whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital putting fake transcripts in databases, and they've been doing this a long time because there's a whole bunch of people tied to the doctors that did fake conversations with me and were involved with people on my area planting evidence, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me with the intelligence families. Involved with Wethersfield police attached me to fake conversations with them at the police station. I wasn't at all as a kid, and now as an adult. They've been doing that at Hartford Hospital too. They have a number of judges and their family members involved next to the sides of and at Central Connecticut State University with a bunch of people from Wethersfield and the same ones involved at and next to Trinity College, like the ones with UConn with the name Violet, involved further with foreign and domestic military with Hartford Hospital with the World Trade Center attack. And Channel 3 News attached me to fake conversations with themselves and with others. Increasingly, people with conjunctions to the state judicial branch offices into that, like Route 3 and along that, and conjunctions to that. They have roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders, mail crime, wire crime, action methods, faking. In other words, some black-white KKK Confederate flag theme, Latino theme, Italian theme, and planting evidence on all sides of my house with people from other areas tied to a Mike Roberts and people on 2-Route Highway. Increasingly, people tied to a Victorian house on 2-Route Highway are involved. People involved with a Phil Colo and others with sexual medical offenders of kids with judges and people with the corrections officers and judicial branch offices. Note they have roles with psychiatry drugs while their tactically delusions wrought with tellings of American history. They have replaced what James Madison and our founders, plural, communicated to have communicated for themselves and for their plan that George Washington agreed to use. You guys were supposed to allow people to be honest about the extortion and the counter-extortion of George Washington and how he was forced to come to Wethersfield, Connecticut, and to counter-extort, but to leave entrenched. Roles with slavery, northern colonies and southern colonies, but to force people to counter-extort it to be the rest of the founders, as the rest of the colonists and as the rest of the Native Americans, they had the force to get behind the Constitution unabridged against internationally monitored conversations that had slavery entrenched, northern colonies and southern colonies, and roles with sustained. And anyone try to counter it, that would be sensed right through their own for the method. And then America's founders were born. That's not even clear. And how our founders did not have free speech, they declassified this. They have that replaced and have self-valued roles with the uses of our founders' words, leaving that out, pretending it's debatable, even though nature itself communicates at black pupils. How we have black pupils, whites of eyes is inseparable from how the breaching method reassigned those colors and with those crazy laws that had time collusions, note with private criminal enterprises too, not just with criminal enterprises, private ones and terrorists at the same time. They have see they were recorded with their syntax interstates. Our senators, our mayors, people tied to their family members, conjunctions to them, increasingly with the FBI director and his lawyer and his co-defendants and their family members involved with sexual and medical offenders at and next to Fox Connecticut News and their subjects treatments and the timing of them and with the names next to their building and involved with that, including with a religious spot there, but also with some Jewish themed collusions with them. Some Jewish themed Mendez police attached me to fake conversations with themselves at the Wethersfield Police Department. They also have roles at the New Britain Superior Court with sexual and medical offenders of kids involved, not just with those predicate acts, falsified police reports, fake ties, fake nature of the ties to me, fake conversations with me. They pretended through such when I was a kid too, and then covered up lie progressions by pretending fake conversations with me and lies about that through the media too. They also attached me to fake conversations with doctors I never had a conversation with as a kid too, with their own family members. A whole bunch of family members at Hartford Hospital, like a Leahy family, is involved faking conversations with people and forging other doctors' names. And the differences of guilt was his screen there too, because those countries and people from those countries are involved with those people too, and those cultures. They're involved with cultural differences. These are some black KKK, Confederate flag themed, Latino themed, overt criminal enterprises per themselves and per others involved with the names next to Hartford Hospital too, with the businesses and houses. One's named Tomorrow's Market, and they're educators. John Mayano and his family member with a house there, not far from Hartford Hospital, and that's in Hartford, Connecticut. These are ones with names next to the campuses, intercities, putting identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake transcripts in the databases, and then they're making confessions to me, tied the same way they're making confessions to the breaching method that was using confessions before the church was. Before our founder, before religious messengers were born, the breaching method was using confessions relative to without people even realizing. They were blaming there are roles, needs, natures, and styles, blaming other things, others, or selves for things that nature is demonstrating, including the existence of a human fact tribute nature breaching method as a scientific value that is inseparable from any proper telling of American history or of any other country's history. Right through world wars, we have some Holocaust encounters to the Jewish collusions with because of the other roles with putting fake transcripts in databases at mental health care locations, at hospital triages, with the foreign and domestic intelligence. The military involved with Cuba has roles with a bunch of people next to Hartford Hospital too, involved with the Scalora family and Central Connecticut State University with foreign and domestic military, involved also with a Kuwaiti general, and involved also with town mines through time. A number of people tied to Ray Colo and a guy that reportedly his roommate are involved with a bunch of people next to Fox Connecticut News and WFSB Connecticut Channel 3 News, Fox 61 News, Channel 3 News, also WTNH next to the FBI in New Haven. They have roles at corners of streets in Wethersfield planting predicate acts with people also with the Air Force and other natures of pilots and their family members who had time collusion/S with the names on my street, involved with investigations. Investigators use remotely criminally foreign influence in their roles time collusion/S with use/S of roles with child abusers, leaders first forced years apart, including the kids associated with some of those, then are who are adults involved with the rest, like with the principal being. I still haven't been responded to his confirmations and demonstrations to me. And I still haven't been allowed to speak. They used crime methods of having the guy call me back a bunch of times to make it look like we spoke. And then they kept saying more confessions, demonstrations, confessing more things, and pretending it's not a confession, saying lies, things that are not even recorded true. And they're pretending they're changing and faking what's recorded with security guards and their family members involved with intelligence in ways. They're demonstrating how they're, in other words, Central Connecticut State University has roles training state police through their careers, they have been criminally poor and influenced, tactically delusions raw, slash hyper criminally poor and influenced. For example, relative to how the colonists had slavery entrenched, sickly distinctly northern colonies and southern colonies that showed criminal foreign influences, but it was also sickly non-distinctly where we could discern hyper-criminal foreign influences that those other countries had upon themselves too. This is a breaching method that measures and maintains other things, others ourselves, blames for things it caused, and rolls with that self-valued, otherwise that body is sensed, through our own, at countries A through Z, as systems tactical ulterior from the one that is a human species body of individual bodies with all group differences generated by that which shows us it is functional being an identity of value progression distinct from all others but not. And also further, in other words, we have the smallest finite details left out we could sense black people, but we have not appreciated the hyper evidential. We have not appreciated how to speak for reason, how it works properly. You have a bunch of fakes who use the words like brain and data, all kinds of putting fake things in databases. The students are distinctly involved from the teachers and the intelligence at UConn, involved with predicate acts methods at Hartford Hospital, involved also with digital crime methods with Facebook, increasingly with the intelligence families like the Violets, involved next to Trinity College with my neighbors, involved also with sexual medical offenders with his educators. I never had a class with a Violet. They have roles with the intelligence act next to the state capitol too, involved with the FBI and lawyers of the FBI and Wethersfield Police and Rocky Hill locations involved with them all along Route 3 and its conjunctions with retired police chiefs from Wethersfield, involved with the same house/S, involved with the police making confessions about also as threats because they're forging and switching names and making confessions about that and refusing to get on paper legitimately since I was a kid, as their collusions with people involved from other areas, putting sequence shifts and identity theft fraud slanders acting so others can make it look like they're tied to me, etc. Now I even had the untimely death rolls recorded. They have roles with untimely deaths and forensics. Fighting forensics is increasingly involved with Facebook, with the Britain Superior Court and the FBI and the Marines and the Air Force with Joshua Julian, also with the Coast Guard and people with the name Mick, like McMansion. One of the girls repeated McMansion, who's involved with a bunch of people, intercampuses, intercities. There were murders that were brought up at the same time. Untimely death at Trinity College, even if it was made up. It's involved with the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, involved with the murder of Greg Heiler, even if that was made up. He was involved with predicate acts with that. And with the names intercities next to the campuses. Involved also with my town from Wethersfield, who had been planting evidence that people tied to them had been planting evidence as intercities. As the ones further involved with the principal upskirt nature, having forced that. These are also sexual and medical offenders of kids, involved with abuses of Adam Lanza, and people involved with the name O'Brien intercities and with Sandy Hook campuses and Sandy Hook promises, and their lawyers and people at the state capitol and next to them are involved with them too, with the interbranch, forging and switching names, predicate acts with facts methods, putting fake motivations for it, valuing the predicate acts with facts and databases, increasingly mayors and conjunctions to them, also next to the state education department in Wethersfield, Connecticut, with a John DeMoro has rules with confessions about sex. Even if it was made up, he's recorded abuses of children roles with his educators and with security people involved and the locations involved. He said places on off Town Line Drive, and they have roles with overt criminal enterprises that are Latino and Italian themed. And they have his relatives also recorded confessed, demonstrate, confirmed. They have Italian intelligence families that involved with psychiatry, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders with judges and prosecutors, and people with the state corrections offices, judicial branch offices, and next to it, involved with their educators too, putting fake ties, fake natures of ties to people into databases and acting tied to that. Well, it's not my fault. In other words, the federal agencies are involved with this too. They're keeping everyone not following mandated law and then changing and faking what's recorded over phones and they use the crime method of making people call back, and there's no communications, and then they just put fake transcripts. They have digital crimes too, with Officer Poison too, with sexual and medical offenders of kids, and with the systems where they put warrants out, involved with the courts, with cover-ups, with that, and Sandy Hook also with that too, and the state corrections offices involved with crime scenes, with the court, with the prisons people, at the names at and next to body dumping spots, and their roles with that, with a van just like that blue one, reportedly of a serial killer, with the name, with and has names involved with the names next to the serial killer's body dumping spot from years before he had reportedly purchased um that van. Has roles with Eric Burgess and others with Hartford courts and their intimate ties with foreign and domestic military confessions to me, requests to help. Also because of the roles of the FBI. I didn't know the FBI director, Live Luskin, was one of the names involved, but he's also involved with a Dean Judd and his kid, and other Dean Alford at Trinity College, a Dean Judd with Central Connecticut State University, involved with collusions with names next to the campuses and the town lines there, involved with predicate acts with people from Wethersfield on the state judicial branch offices and corrections offices, increasingly involved. And Eric Oliveri and one's named Tomorrow have been planting evidences with unmarked police forms and families and people like that associated with the old town, old Wethersfield, the Green and old Wethersfield, in conjunctions to the state judicial branch offices, in conjunctions to that, like all along Route 3, in conjunctions to it. They have roles also with a whole bunch of different countries. People from Korea also, I don't know their name, they know my name. They've been pretending fake things with people from Italy, Korea, Russia, Ukraine. Russia also has roles with people with the Wethersfield police chiefs, lawyer, Bayard, and their syntax and predicate acts roles, readings of statutes and precedents that give them the benefit of the doubt at the last second. That's why they're forging and switching names into branch. They have all kinds of criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought readings of statutes and of precedents and of exceptions and of nature and of reality. So we're going to have to address how replaced is what our founders communicated about how and about why they did not have free speech and had to pretend other. And we're going to have to address how that they have the campuses A through C incapable of allowing to be, let alone to protract, short words proper by American history. We're going to address the delusions too with the people with the measurements of mental acuity. And again, with the exceptions, exceptionation too. All kinds of scams at the campuses, all kinds of natures of organized crimes manifest there still, with the names of the people of the sciences had obligations they cannot afford to have voiced by anyone, let alone themselves, Black peoples. The difference of their guilt, of the